I'm sure many of you are familiar with Joe Telling, aka the 3D printing nerd. He's got a popular YouTube channel and is very well known among the 3D printing community. Well, the reason I bring him up is that he gave me a very nice shout out a few weeks ago in one of his videos where he was designing this strawberry planter, and he wanted to use Fusion 360 to make it. And the way this works is you've got these different pots here, and he was looking to create a cylinder in the center here that you could have holes going around, and then that way you can just put water in the center cylinder and it can distribute the water to all the different pots here, the 4 pots. So he was stuck on how to approach that part of the design in Fusion 360, and he started looking online and came across my video. The neat thing is it was a video I did like 2 years ago, and it's just neat to see how videos like years ago are still helping people you know, solve their Fusion 360 problems. But anyway, so he followed my tutorial and was able to create this planter, and here's what he had to say about my channel.
This guy right here, Desktop Makes 12.3K subscribers. That's obscene. This guy needs a lot more. And I went looking for ways to make holes in stuff in a circular pattern, and he showed me this really cool way via this video right here. Just a huge thanks to him for the inspiration.
And at the end of the video, Joel challenges his viewers that if they have a better or a different way of approaching this design, to go ahead and make a video and share it with him. Well, it's hard for me not to accept a Fusion 360 challenge, so let's do this. Now I'm going to show you the approach I took in creating this design, but keep in mind there's always multiple ways to tackle a project, and the way I tackle a specific design can sometimes be dependent on the specific tools or techniques that I'm trying to teach, and sometimes it's just the direction that my mind chose to take at that time. And if I approach a design several times, sometimes I will just approach different paths. Now there are times where you have to use the correct techniques, and there's a correct way and a wrong way of doing things. For example, setting proper constraints so that when you come back later to make a design change, the whole thing doesn't fall apart on you. But the path to reach a specific goal is usually one of many that you can take.
But now let's clear him out of the way.
Here's a quick look at the design we'll be making. Alright, let's go ahead and jump into Fusion 360. We'll begin by creating a sketch on our XY plane, and we're going to start with a circle. So we're going to go to Create, down to Circle, a Center Diameter Circle. We'll begin the circle right in our origin there. So we'll click once, drag out, and we're going to give this a diameter of 50 millimeters and enter. Next, we're going to draw 2 lines, one going up and one going across. So we can go to Create, down to Line. Start at the origin, straight up. We're going to go 30 millimeters for that vertical line, making sure you get that vertical constraint there. And we're going to do the same thing. So I'm going to right click, repeat line, go across this time and enter 30 millimeters. Enter, and then we can see these are both 30 millimeters there. Okay, next we're going to grab our arc tool, create, down to arc. We're going to go to 3-point arc. Start here at this point of our line, and our next point is going to be our other endpoints of our line here, the horizontal line. And then we're going to click anywhere out here. It doesn't matter where we click because we're going to come in and give it a dimension. So D for dimension, click on our arc, and we're going to give this a radius of 25 millimeters and hit enter. Okay, we're all set with this sketch. We're going to click Stop Sketch, and then we're going to grab our offset plane here. So construct offset plane. We're going to grab our XY plane as a reference, and we're going to take that arrow, go straight up. We're just going to type 150 millimeters because we're going to offset this plane to be 150 millimeters from the bottom. Here's that plane, and so we're going to go ahead and create a sketch right on top of that plane. All right, now what we can do is we can project this circle here into this current sketch by hitting P for project. Selection filter, we're going to go with specified entities, making sure projection link is checked. We're going to click on that circle and then click OK. And notice it comes into this sketch now. So this is our original sketch. This is our current sketch up here, 150 millimeters from the bottom. And notice it comes in purple, so it's linked to that first sketch. Okay, next we're going to do a similar thing. L for line, which is a shortcut for our line tool. We're going to start it at the origin, go straight up. This time we're going to give it a distance of 60 millimeters and do the same thing going across with 60 millimeters. Again, making sure you get these constraints on here. Okay, next we're going to grab our arc tool. So create arc 3-point arc, do the same thing, this endpoint and then this other endpoint, and we're going to click anywhere D for diameter. And we're going to give this arc actually it's D for dimension. So we'll go with double the radius of our last circle, which was diameter of 50, so radius of 25, which means this is going to be a radius of 50, giving us a diameter of 100. Okay, so that's it. We're going to click on Finish Sketch. Basically, we have two similar sketches, one on our XY plane, another one on a plane 150 millimeters away. And next, we're going to grab our loft tool. So create down to loft, and we're going to loft this profile to this profile up here. Click OK, and now we have this 3D shape. And we're going to shell this by going to Modify, down to Shell. Select the top surface. We're going to give it a 2 millimeter shell and click OK. Now we see the whole inside was shelled and we have just this outer shell wall. Okay, well now we're going to do a circular pattern of this. So we'll go to Create, down to Pattern and Circular Pattern. We want to create 4 of these. So for pattern type, we're going to go with bodies. We're going to select this body axis here. We're going to choose our Z axis there. And we can see it defaults to 3. We're going to increase that by 1 to make it 4. Click OK. And there is our 4 planters. Notice here we have under bodies, there's 4 different bodies. We're going to go to the bottom here and bring in that original sketch. We're going to turn that on by toggling the visibility there. E for extrude, select both of these profiles so we get the whole circle selected. So you get this like Pac-Man shape, and make sure you get the little pizza slice here. And we're going to give this a distance of 2 millimeters. That's going to extrude up 2 millimeters. But notice what happens because the operation is join. It's going to join all of these 4 bodies into one. So if I click OK, keep your eye here, all those go into one. So now I have one body that I can toggle on and off. Okay, let's take a look at what we have so far. We made that one loft, turned it into 4 different little planter bodies here, combined them into one. And the next thing we're going to do, if I go back to Joel's planter here, we see that there's these drainage holes here from the sensor so that you can water the sensor part and then the water can go out to each individual planter. So let's go ahead and create that. I'm going to create an offset plane here off from the bottom plane. So let's untoggle body so I can select this. I'm just going to make that 5 millimeters from the bottom and then click OK. And now we can create a sketch right on that plane that we just created. And let's bring in body so we can see how this looks. So what I want to do is create these holes here to go into each one of these planters. So the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to do the same approach Joel did with the pipe tool, but I'm going to show you sort of a different way to approach it. I'm just going to create a line here. I'm going to draw a line and it's going to be 70 millimeters here. And the angle really doesn't matter. I'm just going to give it like going from the top to like bottom right. Okay. And next I'm going to grab my constraint tool, my midpoint constraint. When you get used to using your constraints, it makes your design go so much smoother and efficient. I want this line to be centered right where this midpoint is here. So all I have to do is grab that midpoint constraint, click on the line, click on the center point, and it puts that line right in the middle, evenly spaces it between this point here. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to grab another line. I'm going to have it go the other direction, 70 millimeters. Click OK. Midpoint constraint, grab my line, click on that midpoint, and it centers it right on that point. Okay, next let's bring in the sketch 2 because I want to reference this line here. So what I'm going to do is D for dimension and dimension this line here from that center line going across and give that a dimension of 45 degrees. And then I'm also going to, let's hit escape first, and then I'll hit D for dimension again, and I'm going to put an angle between these 2 lines here, right there. So I have my 2 lines. I'm going to go ahead and make that 90 degrees, hit enter, and now I have this line being 45 degrees from here, and then these 2 lines 90 degrees from each other. Let's untoggle body so we can see that a little clearer here, and these other sketches just to show you exactly what I have there. This X pattern here, 45 degrees, so that it goes right into that particular body here, or that planter, and each one goes into their individual planters. Okay, finish sketch. We're going to go to create and then down to pipe. We're going to need to bring that sketch into view, and we see our lines there. So I'm going to select the line, 3 millimeters for our section size, section circular, and operation is cut. I'm going to click OK, right click, repeat pipe. Let's bring that sketch back into view. We're going to do the same thing with the other line here. Click OK. And now if I go in, you can see I have this hole here that was created because I used that pipe command to cut these holes. This is also a good time to take advantage of our section analysis. So we'll go to inspect, down to section analysis. We can select really any one of these planes here. I'll just select this ZX plane here, and then I can take this arrow, move it out or in. It lets me see inside my part. So if I, let's say, move it about right here, click OK. And let's go to that front view, untoggle sketches, and we can see we have one hole here. So I'm cutting my part in half here so I can see through it. A hole here going into that planter and a hole here going into this planter. Okay, next we're going to create a rectangular pattern to go up, to create a pattern of that hole. So we'll go to create, down to pattern, down to rectangular pattern here, and we'll get our little dialog box here. Our pattern type, we'll go with features. That way we can select it right from our timeline. So for objects, we're going to select these two pipe features that we did. And for direction, we're going to want to go straight up. So we can just choose our Z axis here. Take that arrow and just start dragging it up. Quantity, we'll do 8. And let's zoom out a little bit, and then we're gonna do a distance. So distance, let's say 120 millimeters, and you can see that takes those holes and goes straight up 120 millimeters, and we can click OK, and now we can see we've patterned those holes up. Let's untoggle that section analysis so we can see the whole thing, and we can see it's on each side. Now in Joel's planter, he made 3 of these and went up, but you can see how you can change the number by just simply going back to that sketch, and basically all you would have to do, right click on your timeline or double click to enter that sketch and just enter more lines and create more pipes, given them their angles, and then you can easily then create more holes. Okay, Joel also extruded this straight up because he wanted it to go up straight to have sort of a top little edge to it. So we're gonna enter or select that profile, E for extrude. We'll enter 5 millimeters, and this will extrude it straight up. Okay, next what we're going to do is we need to put some holes on the bottom, some drainage holes. So we'll create a sketch on the bottom surface here, and let's zoom in, and let's project the outline here of that base. So P for project, we're going to go with specified entities, projection link checked, select the center here of that profile so that the whole thing highlights blue, click OK. Now we'll untoggle body so we just see this reference here. So I have that sketch 4 and my sketch 3 on. I'm gonna hit, actually we don't need to see sketch 3. Let's untoggle that and we just get this outline with the sensor for these holes here. Okay, C for circle, we're gonna create a circle down here somewhere, 5 millimeters for diameter, and we're gonna vertically constrain this circle to this point. So now it lines it up straight. Let me do that again so you can see exactly what that does a little bit better. Move it to the side here and vertically constrain it. So when I click the circle, click on the center point, it brings it up so it's lined up. I can move it up and down, but I can't move it left to right because it wants it lined up with this point. Now escape, D for dimension, and I'm going to dimension this circle from this point at 15 millimeters. And next we're going to do a circular pattern of that circle. So create, down to circular pattern. Select the circle and select the center point as this point here. Now watch what happens here. I'm going to turn on body so we can see how this relates to our model here. So I can increase these numbers here. Let's also turn on, let's see, sketch 2. Yeah, because we see that circle here. If I go with 4, the circle will sort of overlap that center cylinder there, which I don't want. But let me show you a trick of what we can do. I'm gonna make 5 of these. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and then one of them goes into that center cylinder, which I don't want. So I can just uncheck this little check mark here, and that will suppress that individual circle. So you don't have to go with exactly the numbers of circles that you choose. You can choose how many and then uncheck if you have, for example, a specific pattern you want, but there's a couple that you don't want because they get in the way of your design or you just don't want them. Okay, so we're going to suppress that one, click OK, and now we have our 4 holes here. E for extrude, we're going to need to bring in that sketch. Select these 4 profiles, and we're gonna go ahead and extrude these up. So I'm gonna drag that arrow up. Distance, I'm gonna go with all, and then click OK. And then there's our hole there. And then what we're going to do is we're gonna do now a circular pattern. So what we just did was a circular pattern within our sketch environment. Now we're going to do a circular pattern within the modeling environment, the 3D environment. So one was in the 2D environment. Now we're going to do it in the 3D environment. So we'll go to create, down to pattern, circular pattern, and we're going to select features here as our pattern type. And we can just select this extrusion feature on our timeline. And that's going to select all of these 4 individual circles that were extruded. Axis, we'll click on that. We're going to go with our Z axis there. So let's untoggle body so we can select it a little better there. Bring bodies back on. And let's go back to a bottom view here. And we can see we can now increase the quantity here. So we're going to go with 4. And you see 1 check mark here. So each check mark of where it's going to go. Click OK. And now we see our pattern of those 4 circles around that center axis. And you can go back, you can change these to however many you want. Go back to that sketch, change how you want those circles are laid out. But okay, that's basically the design in a nutshell there. All right, I hope you guys enjoyed that. If there is a different approach you would have taken in tackling this design, or just in one of the specific areas, let me know in the comments below. I'd be interested in reading those and see what the different angles that you would have taken. If you're new to Fusion 360 and this was just a little too fast for you to follow, then you're going to want to check out my Fusion 360 Quick Start Guide. I've got a link for you to get that down below. All right, I'll see you guys next time. I've got some strawberries to go plant.
12.3K subscribers. That's obscene.